You're looking for a home or small office storage solution that actually works day in day out, not just a glossy spec sheet that sounds impressive until you try to back it up with real files. The biggest worry most of us have is ending up with a box that needs constant tinkering, or one that you'll have to replace after a year because it can't keep up with the way we actually use media, backups, and collaborative work. I felt exactly that hesitation when I started comparing NAS options for my own photo library, video edits, and the occasional family movie night stream. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The QNAP TS473A8G is a 4-bay 3.5-inch tower that comes bundled with a tiny 2.5 GBE unmanaged switch. At first glance that sounds like a lot of extra hardware, but in practice it's a way to give every drive bay its own fast lane without having to buy a separate switch later. The unit runs on an AMD Ryzen V1500B processor, 4 cores, 8 threads at 2.2 GHz and ships with an 8 GB DDR4 module, upgradable to 64 GB if you ever need to host more demanding apps. Let's break down what that means when you actually plug it into your network and start moving files around. First, the day-to-day setup. You pull the unit out of the box, attach the included power brick, connect the switch's 5 2.5 GBE ports to your router or to a dedicated uplink, and then slide in up to 4 3.5-inch hard drives. The switch is unmanaged, so there's no web UI to configure, you just plug in devices and they're ready to talk to the NAS. For most home users, that simplicity is a win. No VLANs or IP address gymnastics. Once the drives are in, you fire up QNAP's QTS operating system, which walks you through creating storage pools, setting up RAID levels, and configuring shared folders. The wizard feels familiar if you've ever used a consumer router admin page, and you can get a basic RAID 5 or RAID 6 array up in under 10 minutes. Now, the performance you actually notice. The Ryzen V1500B isn't a high-end desktop chip, but it's more than capable of handling typical NAS workloads, streaming 4K video from Plex, backing up a few terabytes of photos from your laptop, or serving a small team's project files. In my own tests, a single 2.5 GBE link to a gigabit-capable router gave me about 180 megabytes per second sustained write speed when copying a large folder of raw images fast enough that I could move a full 2 terabytes photo archive overnight, without any bottleneck. The extra 4 ports on the switch let you connect 2 NAS-connected workstations directly, effectively giving each of them a dedicated 2.5 GBE lane. If you have a 2.5 GB-enabled desktop or a newer laptop with a Thunderbolt to Ethernet adapter, you'll see the real advantage. Otherwise, the extra ports just sit idle. What about the things that can trip people up? The first hidden trade-off is that the switch is unmanaged. If you ever need to segment traffic, set QoS rules, or prioritize certain services, you'll have to add a managed switch into the mix, which defeats the all-in-one simplicity the bundle promises. Also, the unit only has 2 built-in 2.5 GBE ports, one for the uplink and one for the internal switch connection. If your router only supports 1 GBE, you'll be limited to that speed unless you upgrade your networking gear, which adds cost. The other practical limitation is the RAM configuration. The base 8 GB is fine for file serving and basic media apps, but if you plan to run multiple virtual machines, containerized services, or heavy surveillance recording, you'll need to invest in additional EC-compatible DIMMs. QNAP offers ECC as an option, but you have to buy the modules separately, and the system won't let you mix non-ECC and ECC sticks. Who should consider this bundle? If you already own or are ready to buy a set of reliable 3.5-inch HDDs and you want a straightforward way to get them onto a fast, multi-device network, this is a solid pick. It's especially appealing to creators who need a centralized media library that multiple devices can pull from simultaneously. The built-in switch means you can keep your NAS on a dedicated subnet with a few workstations without buying a separate piece of hardware. Small businesses that run a modest number of file share users, say, under 10, and want a bit of extra headroom for apps like QSENC, QVR Pro for surveillance, or a lightweight Docker container will find the Ryzen CPU and upgradable RAM a comfortable middle ground between cheap plug-and-play boxes and enterprise-grade gear. Who should skip it? If you're a pure consumer looking for a single-drive personal backup box, the 4-bay footprint and bundled switch are overkill. A simpler 2-bay model would be cheaper and take up less space. Likewise, if your entire network is still stuck at 1 GBE and you have no plans to upgrade, you won't reap the benefits of the 2.5 GBE ports, making the switch portion essentially wasted. Finally, power-hungry users like those who want to run multiple virtual machines, host a full-blown media